Welcome to Hannity. We start tonight with a Fox News alert. Tonight, major breaking news, a bombshell new letter from Congressman Devin Nunes surrounding a shady foreign figure named Joseph Mufsid, who is closely linked to the origins of the FBI's Russia witch hunt. Now, Mueller's report portrayed him as an academic with ties to Russian intelligence, but Congressman Nunes' letter, well, it makes clear he may also have connections to Western governments. That raises many questions about just how this Russia investigation got started, whether Western intelligence services, including our own, may have been compromised, whether intelligence gathering was outsourced to bypass American laws. Now, Congressman Nunes will be here in just a moment with a lot more. Also tonight, we will show you how James Comey, Hillary Clinton, the Obama administration, and, of course, their best friends, the media mob, worked in concert to create and then perpetrate a hoax against Donald Trump and we, the American people. Before we get to all that breaking news, I want you to listen closely, because I know you will not hear this good news from any other news source. Today's economic news is more than phenomenal. We have an economy that is roaring and booming like never before. Look at these numbers. They speak for themselves. Unemployment, 3.6%. That is a 49-year low. We are now witnessing the lowest Hispanic unemployment ever in our history. We're seeing historic lows for women in the workplace, African Americans, Asian Americans, youth unemployment. Record levels of jobs for high school dropouts and those without a college education. Nationwide income is seeing significant increases. That means, yes, the forgotten men and women. The stock market is soaring. The U.S. is now a net exporter of oil and gas. We're energy independent for the first time in 75 years. And that, of course, a major national security win, by the way, against the hostile actor Putin and the hostile regime of Russia and their oil-based oligarchy. In fact, exports of American liquefied natural gas to Europe has now increased by nearly 300% after the president negotiated new trade deals, in this case with the EU. And while Europe's economy, look at this, last 2 quarters, their GDP growth, wow, a whoppingly low 0.4% following 0.2%. That's the last 2 quarters, the last 6 months. Our first quarter growth, 3.2% during a government shutdown. As George said today, the envy of the world. Now, in the Trump economy, everybody wins. American greatness is returning. So with the 2020 election right around the corner, what is the Democratic message? Fear, division, the world ending in 10 years, no more oil, gas, cows, planes, or a combustion engine. In 2020, this will be a huge choice election. Are we better off than we were 4 years ago? Biden going to defend the economic record of 8 years of him and Obama? Okay. Also, in the meantime, we've got to get to the bottom of what was the single biggest abuse of power scandal in this country's history. Now, for years, this country's most sensitive and powerful intelligence tools were turned against its own citizens by a few, not the majority. The Trump campaign, the Trump transition team, we now know it is now beyond all doubt. Incontrovertible evidence. They were spied on by the Obama administration not once, but over and over again. American rights were trampled, the Constitution shredded, lives were ruined. A partisan special counsel witch hunt divided this country for almost 2 years. In the end, thankfully, truth prevailed. They lost. No collusion. The left's long con, hoax, conspiracy theories, whether they can admit it or not, the Attorney General confirmed this week they are over. But stage 2, the second act, begins officially, as he said this week. Everything we've been talking about for 2 years, the Attorney General will begin investigating and already has. Watch this.
There's been no president in history that has given what I've given in terms of looking at just a total witch hunt. I call it the Russian hoax. It turned out to be no collusion, no obstruction. It was a total hoax. And yet I was transparent. We gave 1.4 million documents. We gave hundreds of people. I let him interview the lawyer the White House lawyer, for 30 hours. Think of that, 30 hours. I let him interview other people. I didn't have to let him interview anybody. I didn't have to give any documents. I was totally transparent because I knew I did nothing wrong. It turned out I did nothing wrong.
Not once did this administration invoke executive privilege. They could have literally done it every step of the way. They did not. And the search for justice is only beginning, as confirmed by the Attorney General this week. Operation Crossfire Hurricane, it is now officially the beginning of Operation Boomerang. Because while these bad actors at the highest levels of our government were steadfastly accusing the president of misdeeds, they were the ones committing a litany of real crimes, which will be proven. President Trump is calling it now a scandal bigger than Watergate. I'd say way bigger. And, of course, we're not talking about the rank and file, the 99% of investigators in the premier law enforcement agency in the world, the FBI, premier intelligence agency, the CIA. They're as outraged as we are. Instead, we're talking about a few select, power-hungry, self-aggrandizing, those that view themselves as super patriots that think we don't know better, those that literally rigged an investigation into Hillary, tried to rig an election, and then set up the Trump campaign with an insurance policy and tried to take down a duly elected president of the United States. Let's start with a basic and fundamental truth. It's so simple, even these lazy, overpaid members of the so-called media, so-called journalists, so-called newsrooms, the 99% of them that got it all wrong and lied to everybody, the Trump campaign was spied on. That evidence is incontrovertible. The New York Times even admitting something this program has now been covering for years, with a report that now details how Comey's FBI, in fact, it's deeper than we thought. They sent an undercover investigator posing as a research assistant, meeting with Trump aide George Papadopoulos in 2016. By the way, the undercover agent set up the meeting in London between herself, a 30-year-old, blonde, making it known she's available, with Papadopoulos and Stefan Halper, who we've talked about at length, who is working as a secret FBI informant. This discussion was supposed to involve foreign policy strategies, but it soon took a weird, unusual turn. It was all about Russia, 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 and Trump, 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 and whether the Trump campaign was actually working with Vladimir Putin. And that's not all. It gets more bizarre. The undercover agent was apparently trying to flirt and seduce the Trump campaign advisor, George Papadopoulos. He's here tonight to tell us this story in detail. And so will Carter Page, by the way, who was also spied on by Halper, and Sam Clovis as well. Now, the FBI was spying on Page's phone calls and emails after he was wiretapped pursuing to a FISA warrant, as we all know by now, that was first signed by James Comey based on Hillary's bought and paid for Russian dirty dossier that even the New York Times is suggesting might have been Russian disinformation. The same dossier put together with Russian lies and Google searches by a former spy, British MI6 officer, Christopher Steele. A document that, according to the New York Times, could have itself been disinformation from Russia. And now it's the subject of an investigation currently being conducted by the Attorney General. Remember, he said this week he's not changing his mind on Mueller. It's over, it's done, it's finished. Anything you hear from here on in is noise. What he says now is what the second act is going to be all about, what we've been telling you. Take a look.
How do we know that the Steele dossier is not itself evidence of Russian disinformation campaign, knowing what we know now, that basically the allegations made therein were secondhand, hearsay, or unverified? Can we state with confidence that the Steele dossier was not part of the Russian disinformation campaign?
No, I can't state that with confidence, and that is one of the areas that I'm reviewing. I'm concerned about it, and I don't think it's entirely speculative.
This is only the tip of the iceberg between the dossier, the phony Russian dossier investigation. We have Barr's investigation into spying, FISA abuse, FISA court fraud, that investigation, the investigation into leaking, so many other probes, and why did they rig the Hillary Clinton investigation? In other words, we must get to the bottom of what was the biggest abuse of power scandal in history. If we do not, we can no longer consider ourselves a constitutional republic. We will then be a banana republic. The Vice President of the United States is vowing to do just that. Take a look.
We've got to get to the bottom of how all this started. I mean, the American people have a right to know how this investigation even began. And as the Attorney General said when he testified before Congress, there was spying. We need to understand why there was, whether there was a sufficient predicate. Well, I think we need to find out. We really need to get to the bottom of how this all began. And if there was a violation of the rules, if the law was broken, the people that were responsible need to be held accountable.
And by the way, get this, hell is frozen over. You even have a host at Conspiracy TV, MSNBC. They might be starting to see the light. Only one, though. Let's not get carried away here. Now actually agreeing with the vice president that spying occurred. Remember, there's been nothing but conspiracy theories every second, minute, hour of every day for 2 years on this Conspiracy TV channel. Take a look.
But let me start with the central question on a lot of people's minds last night as they first read it and as they read it this morning. How was this not spying?
Well, I guess it depends on your definition of spying.
Now, this has significant, serious ramifications for the 2020 election. And by the way, not looking good for creepy, crazy Uncle Joe. After all, he was in the meetings with Comey and Obama and Rice about the dirty dossier at the height of the administration's spying. What did he know? When did he know it? And let's not forget about Biden's incredibly shady dealings with the Ukraine, which we chronicled last night. According to the New York Times, he did use his position as the vice president. He threatened to withhold our money, the taxpayers' money, $1 billion in U.S. loan guarantees if Ukraine's leaders did not, in 6 hours, dismiss the country's top prosecutor who we now know is investigating corruption accusations at a Ukrainian energy firm where Biden's son served on the board. Make no mistake, Joe Biden is corrupt. He has many questions to answer, a career politician, and by the way, with the worst economic record, worst recovery in 40 years, in 8 years of Obama, Biden, 13 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty. And compare it to the Trump economy right now, all these records being broken. And speaking of which, Hillary Clinton, well, she and her fellow Democrats were accusing President Trump of colluding with the foreign government during the election. Well, we now know they were the ones who were actually doing the colluding. Look at this damning report from the Hill's John Solomon. Ukraine's embassy in the U.S. is accusing the DNC of trying to coordinate with their government to affect the presidential election. A DNC contractor allegedly, quote, tried to arrange for a Ukrainian president to comment on Paul Manafort's Russian ties on a U.S. visit during the 2016 campaign. And there's email evidence. And as you can see, the left has a lot to be worried about tonight. They were the ones using the most sensitive, powerful tools in our federal government as a political weapon, turning it on the American people to bludgeon the candidate they didn't like in favor of the candidate they thought should win $100 million to zero. And they had an insurance policy after. And after all, we're just a bunch of smelly Walmart voters. What do we know? They knew better. They're the super patriots. They were the ones that actually were colluding with a foreign government, digging up dirt, collusion to help impact an election. They're the ones that have divided this country now for over 2 years with lie after lie after lie, and what is a full-on hoax. They're the ones, as former Clinton pollster Mark Penn put it, they're the ones weaponizing our political system against itself. And now they are the ones lashing out, trying to distract from their crimes. And according to a great new op-ed from Kimberly Strassel in the Wall Street Journal, the Attorney General, Barr, is now getting attacked because his probe endangers very powerful people. She will also be with us in a moment. But now the actions of Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Joe Biden, Bruce and Nellie Orr, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Susan Rice, and that means Clapper and Brennan and even the former president himself, Obama, are now coming into focus, and we need and we will get answers, and sunlight is the best disinfectant. The pendulum is now swung. The boomerang in full motion. The Mueller issue is dead, overdone, completed. Act 2 now begins, and we better get it right, or we lose the country we love forever.